Welcome to the Consulting Success Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Zapersky. In this podcast, we'll dive deep into the world of elite consultants, where you'll learn the strategies, tactics, and mindset to grow a highly profitable and successful consulting business.
Hey everyone, it's Michael Zapersky, and today I'm here with Oren and Klaff. Oren, welcome.
Hey, I appreciate that. It was a short but warm welcome.
Oh, we got more coming, don't you worry. So, Oren, you're the author of Pitch Anything. Your new book is Flip the Script, and we're going to talk more about that. But you're known as like the go-to guy to get deals done. When someone needs 10 million, 25 million for their startup, their business, their idea, they come to you and helping to kind of make sure that it's a successful outcome for them and they have a successful deal. So let's kind of start off with, how did you get into deal making?
Yeah, well, I think certainly when people need 10 million, 25 million, 50 million, but it's different for everybody. I think the differentiator is when the stakes are high and it really matters. And for some people, that's $5,000. For some people, it's 50, and for some people, it's 50 million, right? But when the stakes are high and you have one bite at the apple, you're going to a go, no go meeting. Right? It's not sales. You're not a paper salesman. You're not calling. You're not checking in. When they say, yeah, we want to hear what you have to say. And then we'll take it to committee, or I'll take it to my partner, and then we'll give you an answer on whether we'll go to the next step or it's not for us. When you go to Bank of America and you ask them for a construction loan of $5 million, they don't say, hey, that sounds great. You know, it's not perfect for us today. Why don't you make some of these adjustments and come back in a week or two and pitch us again? They go, no, that is not for us. Don't come back here. Thank you. Nice to meet you. When it really matters, that's when I step in, when the stakes are high. I might just put a perspective on stakes if I can. I know you want to drive your show. It's your show, not the Oren Klaff show. But when I talk about stakes, I think about this. I was driving over the Coronado Bridge in San Diego. It's different from these other bridges, you know, in cities. It arcs over the bay. It goes over battleships. You're way up in the air. You are floating next to the gods. You look out the left window and Apollo is there waving, right? And so anyway, you're way up high in the air and the battleships look tiny below you. And there's not these big guardrails. There's just sort of this retaining wall, concrete retaining wall that it's formidable and looks serious, but it doesn't look that big. And people jump off this bridge all the time, super sad. But I'm sitting there driving my G-Wagon with my family over the bridge, staying in my lane, going in traffic, 65 miles an hour. And I go, there's no chance I'm going to hit that retaining wall. And if I did, it would for sure stop me, right? So it's kind of safe. But if they took that away, I would be on a bridge in the sky, 18 inches from death with my family, you know, driving a truck. And I would slow down to 3 miles an hour.
Yeah, so connect that to the stakes of deals then.
Yeah, so when you are in a deal and the stakes are high for you, right? You feel like anything can happen. You could go off. You're scared. You're nervous internally. Right? You do all kinds of things that don't assist you in closing the deal. You become needy. You say things you shouldn't say. You get off track. You lose ability to keep track of time. And so as the stakes go up and the danger goes up for you, danger, stakes, same thing. You know, when this meeting can change your career, can change your life, can change the arc of your month, make your month go, give you exposure, give you the money you need, a sale you need to get to the next level, be something meaningful to show to man, whatever it is for you, when it becomes important, it triggers all kinds of behaviors you should not be doing. And that's why Pitch Anything and Flip the Script are so important, because they give you the correct pathway through any deal and give you the ability to, even as the stakes go up, and when it becomes super important, to find a way through that doesn't ruin the deal.
Okay. So now let's get into it, because your new book, right, Flip the Script, it's the subtitle is Getting People to Think Your Idea is Their Idea. And then you talk in your book about how people's brains are wired to resist other people's ideas. And so it's critical, right, to present your idea in a way that they think it is theirs. I think this is really important for consultants. That's our audience, really to understand this. But first, tell us more about why. Why is it so important to kind of plant the seed so that people see your idea as their idea?
Yeah. In our business, and we're consultants and we're service providers, consultants, we sell things that are abstract in nature. And it's very difficult to communicate information about abstract services using language. Language wasn't designed to describe financial services, financial planning. We do M&A advisory services, turning accounting into financial models and financial models into a pitch and going to market and connecting the financial markets, all that stuff. Language was not designed to do that well. Language is designed to communicate information about danger. So at the end of the day, buyers want to feel autonomy. And when we use language in a way that feels we're trying to drag them into, convince them of something, we're selling something, when they can see the selling process happen and they feel like they're losing control, they resist, they dig in, they ask for a proposal, and they come up with objections. Not necessarily because they want to resist, not because they want to give objections, not because they want a proposal. It's because they feel you're in control. And they internally, subconsciously, whatever, I don't get into subconscious, preconscious, superconscious, uberconscious, but ultimately below the surface, they feel their autonomy slipping away and dig in their heels because they can't articulate it. They just know they're not in control, but they want to be. That's why it's important.
And I think that goes to the saying, right, that no one likes to be sold to, but everybody likes to buy. And the moment that you feel that you're being sold to, or that someone's trying to kind of work you through their path, and right, you're losing, as you call that autonomy, then the natural kind of inclination or reflex is to put our guard up, right, to try and protect ourselves. It's like the fight or flight. So let's get more into that, because in your book you talk about the 3 W's, right, that people can start to use to overcome the guard that people put on. Maybe take us through, what are the 3 W's?
Yeah. So, just step back before we get into the 3 amazing W's. Ultimately, I want to dig in on this point. If somebody can, this is why it's called flip the script. If they can see the sales mechanism happening, then they go, oh, I know what this is, and I know how to defeat it. I know how to deal with it, right? And it's almost gamified. And this sort of sense of get rapport with someone. Hey, good to meet you. Oh, you like football? I like football. You like, hockey. Yeah, my little boy plays hockey. Yeah, we vacation in Florida.
See a nice picture on your wall over there, and that was that taken on that place. And I think I've been there before. That kind of thing.
Did you see Fletch? Oh, it's Tommy Lasorda. I hate Tommy Lasorda. So yes, so that kind of thing, right? To get a safe place to give a pitch, and this is really the problem. And then
let's just dig into that for a moment, because that's classic kind of sales training, right? You have to build rapport. And I think it is important to have a relationship with people, right? People they buy, if they don't trust you, they're not going to buy from you. But what I've seen of all of your work, Oren, you try and accelerate past that rapport phase to really just get into the meat of it as quickly as possible. And is that because savvy buyers are just busy and they don't have time to chit chat? Or what's your thinking about why it's so important to go right into it kind of as quickly as possible?
Yeah. Today, there's a saying, people buy from people they like. Today, I think the saying is they don't buy from people they dislike. They don't have time to like you, right? They want a value proposition. They want certainty that what you say is going to happen in the future really will happen, and that you have skin in the game. You're not just going to get a commission, turn them over to someone else, and move out. Then we can move into, some things you talk about, the 3 W's or whatever. But when somebody can see rapport happening, and then they can see you, hey, these are the features, and then these are the benefits. They can see what's happening. Oh, these are the stretch benefits. And then the trial close. So what do you think? Is this something you'd be interested in? Then the objections come out. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Objections. So, the way to overcome objections, there's a million books on it. This is a good book. Like, you read this book, it's not offensive.
Jeb has been on the podcast, and so he's a great guy. Lots of good resources.
So how to overcome objections has been done as well as it can be done. People say to me, hey, Oren, how do you overcome objections? And I go, I pick up Jeb's book and I turn to, page. Oh, here, look at this. You cannot argue people into believing they are wrong. And so, sort of Jeb argues against his own book. I got to talk to him. Right?
There you go. So you can bring the 3 W's and answer that question whenever you feel that the timing is right. But I think what you're bringing up is really important, right? So it's not that people necessarily need to feel comfortable enough that they want to invite you to dinner, right? So it's not they need to like you because they're too busy with what you're saying. It's that they need to not dislike you. They need to feel confident that you can deliver and that you're credible and that, really you're on their side. So how do people go about doing that? What have you found is the most effective way for people to achieve that level of comfort, of trust, of likability?
So it's where we started. You have to raise the stakes. That's winter is coming. Winter is coming. People have to have a sense that there is an environmental change that they are not prepared for, is catching them flat-footed. And they need to be aware that this is going to change the game, and they need somebody who knows how the new game is played. Winter is coming. We've talked before, but the perfect example of raising the stakes is making somebody in the theater industry. maybe 15, 20 years ago, stadium seating came to the theater industry and it wiped out every other known form of theater and entertainment, like a complete nuclear meltdown. Why would you sit in a seat where you can't see over the guy in front of you when you can go to the theater across the road and have clear sight? How tall are you? You look like you're very handsome, but how tall are you? I can't see.
I'm 5'9".
5'9". Okay. Well, you're like me. You're not that tall. But anyway, in the old seats,
Everyone likes my hairstyle. That's why I stick around. It's my hair.
Yeah, with the afro, still 5'9". But in the old seats, you sat in front of me and you're 5'9". I couldn't see over you, much less somebody who's 6'. In the new seats, so you go, hey, listen, if you were a salesman in that industry or you were an executive or you were a consultant, for example, in either finance or real estate or whatever, you would go and say, listen, these new stadium seats are wiping out everything else that stands in its way. You have 6 months before there are 6 planted within a mile of here. Okay. And then let me tell you how we got here. Right. And you give somebody, how stadium seats came about, the certainty that they are coming. Right. And that's the number, unless somebody believes that there's an environmental change and it's going to affect them, it's very difficult to move on with any other parts of the pitch, presentation, details, anything else you have, value, ROI, certainly the prospects the logos that you have, you've worked with Microsoft and Oracle and, all these credible accounts and what value, none of that really can happen without the context of this pre-wired idea that some kind of winter environmental change is coming, and every industry has it.
Do you use that idea, and have you found that it's effective to use that winter is coming, as you're calling it, right? It's kind of like, it's the danger, it's the fear, it's the game changer. Do you use that? Go ahead.
Not fear, because it can be misconstrued as fear.
Okay, cool. Because that's part of what I was hearing you say, right?
This is the old system of selling.
Yeah. So go ahead then. So if it's not fear, because I think when I listen to you talk about that, right, there could be I felt like, there's a bit of fear. If I own a theater and I don't have that, you're coming in and you're telling me this is going to wipe me out, like that, I would have maybe some fear to that. So talk to me about how it's a little bit different from fear, just because I want people to be very clear on that this is not selling based on fear. It's not
fear mongering because you don't care, right? When you care, when it comes with caring about what happens, then it comes as fear. The Zig Ziglar, light a fire so you can sell them at fire extinguishers, right? The difference is I'm not lighting the fire.
Mm-hmm.
So listen, you're in consulting and financial services. There's a lot of podcasts out there. It's critical to have a podcast. Anyone without a podcast is not in the channel, in the marketing channels that are known to be effective, and their cost to acquire a customer are super high.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Listen, we have a great podcast, right? My clients have a great podcast. You have no podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have this problem. You have this problem, right? Happy to help you. Set aside a little bit of time today, time on each other's calendar. I know you're busy. We're super busy as well. Good to be here. Look, we have like 15, 20 minutes, right? And I want to see if I can help you in what we know about the importance of omni-channel marketing to include the podcast, right?
So Oren, what I'm hearing you say is that it's really about the positioning, the mindset that you have, right? You're not going in trying to necessarily persuade, because you're not tied to the results. You're more really saying, this is the situation. Like, you're a messenger. You're delivering the message so that the prospect, the buyer, at least is aware of what's really going on. And if that's something that they want to grab onto, then you further the conversation. And if they don't really care about it, or if it's not something that resonates with them, then that's okay. You move on to the next person.
Right. So both these books, especially Flip the Script, is about caring about the customer, wanting their account, trying to do the right thing for them and helping them. And at the same time, not caring and being willing to walk away and trying to find out which of those two answers is the right one for you and the client, right? So caring and not caring at the same time is challenging.
I want to ask you, you talk about this message of the winter is coming, right? It's essentially why they should care, what's going on in their industry, in their business, so that, that you're getting their attention. You use that at the beginning of your conversation with the buyer. Have you found in your experience that's also the same messaging that is critical to use to actually get the meeting, to get the appointment? Because that's an area that a lot of consultants struggle with. It's how do I actually get more meetings, have more conversations with buyers? Are you leading with that same messaging, that whatever it is, the winter is coming, in your initial outreach to people to be able to set up those conversations, or are you finding something else works best?
No, something else works best. It's too overwhelming. So outreach requests are like 35, 45 words, right? That is not enough space because, if you get more than that, you're like, oh my God, this is a form letter. It doesn't, right? So that's a different subject is outreach and pulling people into that conversation. In that conversation, say why I wanted to talk to you is this industry is changing completely. I noticed something, so now we're in the pitch. I noticed something about you guys, right, that didn't seem in sync with where things were going, right? And I thought we'd have a conversation because from where I sit, and you wouldn't have visibility on it, we see this tariff, this tax, this marketing situation, this technology coming into the space, and I recognize you guys are sort of heading in the wrong direction. Maybe it's on purpose. Maybe you have a grand master plan. Maybe but I thought I talked about what we see happening and the impact of it, right? So that heads you into the pitch, but that's too much to do when you're doing a call or an email. So call or email, its only job is to offer something that if you really even had it, they would want and communicate, I am not a robot. That's the two jobs of outreach. That's how you get people to a call. The outreach, when it's cold for a consultant or service provider, see, the confusion is it's not about you, the person sending it out. It's about the person receiving it. Maybe I'll just leave it at this because there's a whole conversation. We send our outreach data to the Philippines to be nurtured and completed. So I know what blogs the guy's been on, if he's been on a TEDx, what he said on the TEDx, and what podcasts he's been on, and which ones are interesting and what happened at minute 3. And then I can put that all in an email and say, hey, I noticed that these are things about you, super interesting. And the other thing that needs to go in there is randomness. Randomness has to be in cold or cool outreach.
What do you mean by randomness?
Randomness is something that signals that I'm not going down a list or robo-dialing. Hey, I was talking to Michael, I was talking to John, Tim, Joe, Susan, Heather, Jeff, Joe, and your name came up. And they said, hey, I looked you up and I realized you're doing X. We just did one of those. Coincidence? Maybe, maybe not. Thought I'd jam off an email, right? I'm not a robot. I know things about you. And there's some randomness created this. And this is when the stakes are high. Like it's hard to do, 5,000 emails like this. But we do this at volume. We could do 1,500 emails, but each one feels to the person receiving it like someone has actually crafted this email and there's somebody at the other end of it. So that's outreach.
That's so important. And I know your book is not about outreach, but just to put it out there for everyone, I think that's important because these days everyone's searching for the automated solution and how can we do things at scale and at volume. But when you're, especially in consulting, it's not about volume, right? It's about really making sure that you can differentiate yourself. And the way to do that is exactly what you just mentioned, Oren, right? Which is to make sure that you're customized, that you're spending a little bit of time putting something unique in there that shows that you're not just putting them into a system and it's sending out the same thing to 1,000 people. That's ultimately what will get you a higher level of response. So let's get back into your book right now. Should we talk about the 3 W's and what they are and kind of why they're so important?
Well, you asked me questions about them rather than me lecturing on them.
Well, I wanted you to kind of take us through what the 3 W's are in terms of in your book, you talk about that they should be included in every presentation and in every conversation you have with a buyer. So I thought if you want to talk about that, the other thing I want to ask you about, which we can maybe move on to this if you'd like as well, is that you mentioned that it's important for you to give the buyer permission to start asking you questions, kind of start questioning you and your deal. And that stood out to me because I think a lot of people would think, why is that? Why do you want to give the buyer permission to start asking you questions or to question you and your deal? And so maybe you could just talk about that as well.
Yeah. So I think one of the W's that's so important to me is why you, right? So if I ask anybody, 9 out of 10, 19 out of 20, 39 out of 40 people and say, why you? And they'll say credentials, experience, capability. Maybe some will touch on integrity, and mainly it will be about capability.
Sure.
But really the rest of the pitch answers that. Why you really is about, do you have skin in the game? How do I know that after I give you the money, after I sign the contract and agree to give the money, after we're in business together, I'll really get the things you're saying, right? And the real answer to why you is because I have skin in the game.
How do you convey that?
Well, it's easy for consultants, right? Because I just go, hey, type my name in the internet. I've been doing this for 20 years. Not a single complaint. As a matter of fact, the first 75 pages on the internet are about me saying great things, right? Half the internet. And so I have skin in the game. I'm doing something personally with you. I cannot have you go, buy orenclaffsucks.com. And also I do 4 of these a year. I dedicate my entire business to one at a time. This has to work out. Over at XYZ competitor, they have 50 people. They start 30 of these and they complete 10. And that's their model. I start one and I complete one. So whatever the rationale is, you have to show people how you have skin in the game and we're in, everybody knows, we're in the canoe together, we're in the boat together, whatever metaphor you want to use. When they need to know why it's not about your capability. The rest of the, other parts of the pitch are about that. That is, why is there mutually assured destruction if this doesn't work?
And is that something that you are communicating to the buyer yourself? Like it's coming from you, or are you just prepared with that so that when they start asking you about, hey, how are you different from Big Jill's consultancy over there, that you are prepared to respond to, or are you bringing that up even before they get to it?
While we work with a lot of seasoned and experienced consultants here at Consulting Success, I'm often contacted by new early-stage consultants. Invariably, the question I'm asked is, what are the steps I should take to become a successful consultant and grow my consulting business to my first 6 figures per year? Well, I'm excited to announce that we've opened the doors for our Momentum program. This is our most popular program for early-stage consultants, and it has helped almost 1,000 consultants to start, run, and grow successful consulting businesses. It gives you the step-by-step plan to help you with your messaging, your fees, and pricing strategies, how to win more proposals, how to go to market more effectively, developing a marketing system to generate leads consistently, and so much more. And right now, until September the 19th, you can sign up for Momentum and get 50% off the regular price by going to consultingsuccess.com/audio. That's consultingsuccess.com/audio, AUDIO. Only 100 spots are available to join Momentum and get 50% off. This deal is only available until September the 19th or until all 100 spots are gone. We won't be opening up new spots in this program for several months, so don't wait. Go to consultingsuccess.com/audio. That's consultingsuccess.com/audio, AUDIO.
So I am trying to get it set aside as early as I can, right? Which is, in our business, it's funny, I just talked to another company that we're collaborative with. They're in the exact same business. And they go, yeah, the clients pay me $40,000 and that's gone the day we get it. That's what I tell my clients, right? They give us $40,000, $75,000. It doesn't matter. We spend it the day we get it because we have analysts and all kinds of smart people from Goldman Sachs. They don't believe us, right? But I have to communicate to them, hey, you're giving us $40,000. At the same time, I write a check for $40,000 because the real cost of this is like $100,000. So we have mutually assured need for success. And not only that, we get paid many times on success, right? So I put in my own money. You got to put in a little money to have skin in the game. I have skin in the game, but we're both pulling for the same thing because when this succeeds, everybody gets paid. Right. And so that's how we answer it. Now, how are you better? How are you different than Jack and Jill Consulting? That's a tough one, right? And so I'm trying to think what pages that falls in on Flip the Script, but it's great. And I got this a while ago and I thought to myself, I started feeling myself go down the road of how we're better, right? But that is a rat hole, that is a tar pit you will never pull yourself out of, is convincing someone that you're better than the other guys.
Well, and it's also like to your earlier point, it's better to try and deal with all those potential objections or things that come up, right, even before they appear. So you don't have to be, on the defensive, right? If you come in with the offensive, then you're able just to take care of those things, the questions that the buyer likely has, but you've already taken care of them before they even start to bring it up. And so now you're in that place of power rather than having to try and defend yourself later on. Would you agree?
Yes, I agree. You try and get those set aside, but they will ask the question because somebody will come in late. Some bigwig will go, how are you different from McKinsey, right? There's 2 answers, right? One is we're not different. We're all the same. So commoditize instead of trying to get the relative value of them. Because think about it. No matter what you say after how are you better, it is in your own self-interest to say it and is 100% discounted. Mm-hmm. So you can't answer the question. It's a Kobayashi Maru, right? It's a game that's set up to not be able to be won. So the answer is oh, we're not any different. All of us do the exact same thing. And then you do a flash roll, right? Which is, I think, chapter 3. So we take your financial model and we correlate to the accounting and we try and produce 3 years of historical financials and show that you have 20% year-over-year growth. We produce some board packets and get a board of advisors set up, and we produce a deck that tells your story, and we test the deck in a couple of trial meetings, and then we email 10 or 20 closely held firms, and we put you in front of them with some training. Everybody does that. If you don't do that, you can't be in our industry. So we're all exactly the same. So if that's what you're looking for, generic 101 accounting, financial services, wealth management, there I can send you to a bunch of firms that do that. Just say, hey, Oren, I'm looking for generic 101 every day, out of the box, Costco, XYZ consulting. And I will send you to one of my buddies that does that. It's cheap, it's decent, and it will get you out of a pickle, because that's not what we do. You know, on the other end, you have McKinsey. They do the exact same thing. You can repeat the flash roll again. So if you have $1 million, because you walk in the door at McKinsey, they're like, hi, nice to meet you. You know, here's a cup of kombucha. By the way, do you have $1 million check so I can let you in to speak to a partner? You know, that's how it works there. But in all seriousness, if your board of directors and your wife and your partner and your advisors, everybody want, you know, McKinsey or PwC or JP Morgan or whoever, they want a name stamped on it. I got a great guy who works at Goldman. I'll send you over there or McKinsey. But I can tell you this, for the $50,000, $80,000 you have, whatever, for the size of company, at McKinsey, you're going to get interns, like guys who started yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's not what we do, right? What we do is for a $20 million firm who actually needs this done at the highest level possible, needs this done correctly, with experience, having done this 1,000 times, with great certainty on the outcome, doing it alongside you. You know, we're not going to work on your business harder than you, but we'll work as hard as you will. And the last 20 deals we've done have been exactly the same. Your size company, your problem. We solve this all. If that's what you want done at the highest level for somebody who knows how to do this, we can talk, you know, if our circles overlap, and be willing to undertake your problem. We solve this all the time. We don't have this problem. You have it.
So what I think is really powerful, what you just shared there, Oren, what I want everyone to notice is what you've just done, right? By having that conversation, or essentially planting those seeds, the concerns that a buyer would have, because they're thinking those things anyways, but you're just bringing them out into the open. And so now they feel that you're not attached to the decision. You'd love to have their business, but it's not something that you're going to bend over for. It's, you have a lot of other options or other people that you could serve as well. And so it's like you're putting it out there, and now they get to decide where they really want to play. So I think that's really, really powerful. You talk about it in your book, right? This idea of inception. And that's really the core idea, right? Based on the subtitle here, right? So kind of like getting people to think your idea is their idea. And you give a formula actually a little bit later on in the book, which is like pessimism plus autonomy plus expertise equals inception. I don't think we have time necessarily to go into the whole formula here, but I'd love if you could just maybe talk a little bit more about what is the key. If you had to kind of boil it down, and I highly recommend that everyone does go and check out the book, but if you had to boil it down, how do people plant that seed? How do people get buyers to think that their idea, the consultant's idea, is actually the buyer's idea? What's the key to making that happen?
Yeah, so it's a great question. And just so we all are talking about the same thing, you know, just give you an example. Last weekend, we had a buyer in town, big account. It's probably, you know, $275,000 a year services consulting account. And the guy comes by and we sit with him within an hour and we talk about it and we get up to leave. You know, the main role was to look at the scope and the services and everything like that. And he leaves and I say, Jonathan, you know, on the way out, hey, how do we get this agreement? Like, that's the best close I have, right? I'm not a closer because we don't overcome objections. I go, hey, Jonathan, how do we get this agreement signed? He goes, oh, I signed it an hour ago. It's on the conference table. That's inception, where the guy has signed the deal, hasn't price negotiated it at all, hasn't marked it up, and didn't even tell you that it's closed. The deal's already closed and you're still working. So
work us through that. How did you make that happen? Maybe if you want to use that as an example or another example, what happened there so that it was a successful deal for you?
Yeah. So one of the things we already talked about is making him aware that the industry that he's in, which they market to hospitals. You cannot market to hospitals. You can't call them. You can't reach them. They don't take your call. They don't open emails, right? There's a new omni-channel method that really requires data science. So today, the last 2 generations of marketing in the hospital systems were, you know, one was manual and then one manual sales automation. And now it's data science. And if you don't know data science, you don't have the skills to do it today. So that was one.
Was that an idea that he didn't necessarily know, or it was something that maybe he knew, but he didn't know how important it was? Like, what was so revolutionary or what was so powerful about that idea?
Yeah. So it certainly in the buyer's mind, there's all these things, data, automation, data science, manual marketing. It's just under marketing. And what we did is we pulled back the curtain and we say, this is how it worked 5 years ago. Got it. Okay, check. Then this happened. Marketing automation came on and it worked, right? And so then we said, this is all the technology. This is how you do it. Yeah, totally agree. Then what happened is you could get lots of data on an individual and follow them, right? And monitor what they were doing and feed them stuff slowly over time. And that changed everything. So these new skills became relevant. So we organized his thinking on it. And then we go, what's different about the last two generations is these skills are not like a step up. It's not, right? So in the first generation, your neighbor's 13-year-old could set it up, right? Hey, how do we set up Salesforce.com? So, anybody could do that. The next generation, marketing automation. Well, you sort of had to be a 24, 25-year-old with some experience in web, and it's complicated. Data science is no bullshit. 24-year-old dropped out of Santa Monica Community College is not doing this, right? The skill level here, we have guys, that we're recruiting from Goldman Sachs and we're paying them $220,000 and putting them here on the beach in California, right? And buying them a BMW to drive. And this is a level up. But if you don't get these skills, you can't compete. We gave them some examples. So that's how we made that very real. The skills needed today are no joke, hard to get, right? And so that is really where the inception comes from, is why is this hard? Because if the buyer leaves thinking that what you do is easy, he will look somewhere else or do it yourself or try and get it for free from China.
And so you haven't talked at all about, to that point, about what you do, your process, your methodology, correct? The environment and the situation and the winter is coming, as you called it?
Not until he believes
right.
that in general, this change and doing what we do or other people do in this change is super hard, and that we would have skin in the game in doing it, that we wouldn't pitch features and benefits and value proposition and ROI. People look at my pitch, is that in a 20-minute pitch, I might not get into features and benefits or exactly what it is until out of a 20-minute pitch until minute 12. Most people start with that, right? Until they perceive that you have solved this kind of problem 1,000 times before, 100 times before, 50 times before for this kind of company. And it's almost boring. As you and I have talked before, a boring push-up to get this done. And they perceive you high status. They perceive what you do is hard. The skill sets are very high and things are changing. You cannot pitch what you do.
And one thing I've taken away from, your books and the conversations that we've had, Oren, and your style, when it comes to this, is it's very important to be specific. Like, you can't go in telling the story at a high level and with generalities. In order to really make this stick and to make an impact so that they do believe you, you have to come in very specific. And whether it's giving acronyms and percentages and dollar signs, the more specific you are, the more believable the message is. And so if you could just talk for a moment about that, people, just so that people are clear, like, to make this work, you can't come in and just give a high level, loose kind of, story. It has to be very focused, very specific so that it's believable, correct?
Yes, I have to believe that this is so easy for you. You can describe my problem, the likely solution, or something you've done before while talking 3 times as fast as you normally do, as if you're just rolling off your top of your mind and you've forgotten it the minute you've gotten it out.
Yeah.
Check this out. Your Nissan Murano starts making a noise, right? And not so bad. That's usually the belts, right? But there's like a little bit of crunching. You go, that's bad. So the dealer is a real pain. I'm not going to take it to the dealer. Hard to get to. Can't spend all day there. So you take it down to your local mechanic, and he comes out and he says, yeah, I hear the belt squeaking. Tell you what, it's $350. We'll check it out. We'll tell you what our assessment is. If you decide to get it repaired here, then we'll credit the $350 to the repair ticket.
Yeah.
And you go, I don't know. Sounds good. I don't know if that solves my problem. I do know I got a bill for $350, right? So you go, let me check one more place. You go there. The guy walks out, got a nice, uniform on. His name is Eric. And he takes a look at the Nissan Murano and he goes, yeah, let me hear it. He puts it on, squeaks, goes, crunch. is, listen, here's what's going on. They built these in 2012, 2013. That's when the disaster hit, right? And then they moved these over to the Nagasaki factory, right? And a couple of parts they didn't replace, and one was a fan belt. See, this has a 27407C fan belt on it, right? The correct one is a 24407-9. We have about 100 of them back. We see 3 of these a week. I've done 50 in the last 2 months, and I do 100 a year. Look, do me a favor, leave it here. It's $650. Come back in the morning. It'll be totally fixed. And this gear oil will stop leaking as well because the fan belt is making the gears oscillate at the wrong speed. We'll fix that at the same time.
Yeah. Not only are you going to sign up and pay for that, you'll pay more you'll pay a premium because you're sold. Yeah.
It's funny.
Completely agree.
We had a Range Rover, an older model, and she took it to the garage and she comes back and she goes, oh, they're going to fix the brakes. I go, great. How much is it? Right. And she goes, $400. I go, that doesn't sound right. Are you sure it wasn't 4,000? And she goes, I don't know. So welcome to my life. But yeah, that's the point. Like, those guys know what they're doing. She's smart, right? She's completely convinced that they're going to fix all 4 brakes and the raising and air pad system and everything like that. She's going to get it back and it'll be safe to take the family in. And it's either $400 or $4,000. Who gives a Oren pays for it? There
you go. So the big message here, right, is specifics. When you're delivering that message, you have to be specific in order for it to be believable. One final question on this then. This is all based on you going in and, telling that story based on what you believe their problem to be or what the outcome they're looking to have. A lot of people don't necessarily know what is top of mind for the buyer because they've just set the appointment or the meeting for the first time. How can you go in and make that confident case or tell that story confidently if you don't know exactly what they care most about or what is top of mind for them right now?
Yeah. So I don't mean to be rude or crass. Sometimes a couple words pop out and they head over, but
you've been known to do that. It's okay.
Okay. I can't think of an example where you don't basically know, like in our industry, companies come in and they could be in semiconductors. They can make brooms. They can produce liquid that goes in, but it doesn't matter. They go, we have $25 million in revenue. We got $4 million in EBITDA. We're growing 25% year over year. Got it. Right? Well, you got like 25 people, maybe 8,000 square feet and some office probably in Boise or Utah, but you live, in La Jolla, somewhere nice. Yeah. How did you know? Well, that's how it always is, right? So it's not the case that you don't know anything. So just to slow us down a little bit, I just talked to a pretty serious firm, maybe $50 million a year, and they get on the phone, and this is where I was helping them. By the way, for them, it was $35,000. For you, you get it right here. They go on the phone and they do this big, long interview process to try and understand and find the buyer's pain, because that's what they call it. We got to ask all these questions, understand their situation to see what their pain is, which I think is what. No, your clients don't have 75 different kinds of problems that are never been invented before. Yeah, there's some nuances. And in our world, they want to sell their company because they're breaking out, they're getting a divorce, that somebody passed away, they're sick, they're tired. Who cares, right? The problem is they can't push a button and sell their company and get $20 million. They need someone like us to help them. That's their problem. Right? So you know what their problem is. Their taxes are messed up. Their financials, their people, they have management problems, right? So you can get a little bit of information and go, I see this a lot of times. Let me take a stab at this, right? And you use a crystal ball because you've seen this so many times. Is this about what's happening? Right. And even if you get it wrong, they will appreciate not having to sit through a 20-minute Q&A. When you are sitting there, let me just finish this thought. When you're sitting there asking them questions, one is they don't want what you have. They're not learning anything about your capability. You're framing yourself up as low status, right? You're boring them. They're in a meeting where they're not meeting anybody interesting, getting anything of value, and they're giving you information which they know you're just going to turn around and use to negotiate against them. So you got to cut this down to, listen, tell me a little bit about what's going on. Oh, I get it. So the problem is about like this. Yeah, that's what we're feeling. Later, you can get the details, but nobody can sit through that 20-minute Q&A in today's world. You to know that stuff.
What I'm hearing you say, Oren, if I kind of maybe reposition this a little bit is, and tell me if this is right or wrong, you go in as the expert, right, with the focus of, like, you're focusing on the outcome of the most likely outcome that the person has. And the nuances, the things you might pick up in the questioning kind of around trying to understand the value and all that, they might have different issues going on. So in your case, like with an M&A, the outcome that they want is to sell their company for the most money possible. The nuances might be it's because of divorce, it's because this, that, and the other. Your presentation, your story, right, is not focused on all the nuances. Rather, you're focusing on the outcome, but it's so powerful. You focus on making that story so powerful and so believable that they can grasp or they can kind of hook onto enough of the different things that you say that connect to some of their nuances, maybe not all of them, but it still has the end outcome in mind. And so if they are an ideal client, it will still resonate with them, even though it's not custom tailored to them at that stage 100%.
Yes. And somebody starts to give me all those details voluntarily. I go, hey, listen, I don't need to hear all your personal problems right now. Ha ha, joke. But seriously, we can get all that later. I understand what's going on here, right? Done this 100 times, right? You are all jammed up because the company is growing. You're seeing all these offers. You don't know what to do. You need somebody who can really help navigate it. Is that about right? Because what else are we talking about here? That's what we do. We don't make websites. We don't deliver pizza. That's what we do. So if that's your problem, let's talk about how I might be willing to take my company, my people, my integrity, my ability, my background, my reputation, my financial models, my money, and help you out. But I'm looking at you, and before you got here, I typed your name on the internet, and I looked at a couple things. I like you. You're a perfect account, right? You're straight in the middle, but there's some red flags. There's some questions I have to ask you, and some of them are tough questions, because as you know, doing this together could be good for both of us, but if it doesn't work, it's a disaster. I've got my firm involved for something for 6 months that goes nowhere. I can't have that. So I got to ask you some tough questions. You got to ask me some tough questions. You're evaluating me, and at the same time, I'm evaluating you. And if it looks like we can do 3 things. 1, like each other. And by the way, I don't even know if we like each other right now. Let's get there. Okay? Do we like each other? Can we work well together? Yeah, look, you're a good guy. I'm a good guy. We probably like each other. Can we work well together? We got to figure that out, right? And number, can we build something that's good? Can we solve this problem? Can we do this financial model? Can we train your people? Can we do this org chart? Can we do this management training, right? And not do we think it's good? Because of course, yeah, hey, Michael, hey, Oren, great job. Yeah, we killed it. Do other people think it's good? That's what we got to figure out. Do we like each other? Can we work together? Can we build something good? And do other people think that? So let's not try and take over the world in one moment here, right? And take over all your financials and all your accounting and all your problems. Let's do something focused in which we go, hey, that was great. So you say, hey, you got, I heard you say before, you might not talk in the same tone, but I'm so committed to this. I do talk in this tone to brand new clients. And I go, hey, sorry, I'm not yelling at you. I'm yelling for you. And they go, oh, yeah, no, we totally understand. We love it. We love your passion, right? But it's the certainty that you're conveying.
And certainty is powerful, right? Like it goes in and right away, that's confidence, right? That confidence goes to them. And ultimately when a buyer is deciding to buy from you or someone else, they want to feel confidence that they're choosing the right person. And if they're talking to a consultant that doesn't convey confidence, right, then how confident can they be that that's going to be the right decision? So I can very much see how the certainty that you bring to that in that conversation in your style is very powerful in conveying that level of confidence.
Yeah. And I think, you convey a level of confidence and certainty in the way you talk and the way you present yourself. It's totally different. That's not me, right?
Yeah, exactly. We all have our own styles.
Yeah. And this is why I think, chapter 7, how to be compelling. That is, what a lot of people want to be like me, right? No, you want to use the structures that I use and be like yourself. If you're mousy and you get scared, people want to fix that. Don't fix yourself. Okay. I'm not good enough. You're not good enough. You're not good enough who you are. The structures will work. Don't change yourself. Use the structures. People hand me CEOs that are straight off the boat from India, right? Hard to understand. Call a spade, right? Very technically capable. Have a great company. I got to train them to pitch. Hard to understand. Not plugged into our cultural resonance. Aren't backslapping frat boy, Silicon Valley, bad boys of raising money, right? And so I see they come to me when they're trying to, they're watching Silicon Valley and trying. No. And matter of fact, I had a guy here who meets his definition exactly. And his first pitch was impossible, right? I worked with him for 2 days, and the last pitch he gave, people were crying, not because he finally gave a good pitch, but they saw the change in him that he committed to who he was and did the structure correctly. What's the structure? Hey, slow down. You're hard to understand. Hey, glad I could make the time to be here. I know you guys are busy. I'm busy too. We found some time on the calendar. where we could all get here, same call, same time. Let's make the best use of it. Does anybody need fluids in or out?
Ladies and gentlemen, Oren Klaff, we're going to have to leave it there for today. Thank you so much for coming on. Again, everyone, Flip the Script, Oren's new book. We'll make sure that we have this linked up in the show notes. But Oren, just from your mouth, where's the best place for people to go to learn more about the book and everything else that you're working on right now?
Yeah. Buy the book on Amazon. It's $12 or $18 or whatever. That thing will make you $1 million. If it doesn't, come back and complain to me and I'll take care of you for certain. Second, go to orenclaff.com. Put your name in there. There's a contest on the website right now. I'll fly you out to California. I'll put you up on the beach and I'll help you train up on this stuff where you feel comfortable giving it. So enter that contest and try and win that. Those are the two things you got to take care of.
There we go.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Consulting Success Podcast. For more episodes and to subscribe, rate, and leave a review, head on over to iTunes. And if you'd like to develop consistent lead flow and a highly profitable consulting business, learn more about our coaching programs at consultingsuccess.com.